Good afternoon and welcome. Today we delve into a complex and frequently debated question. Should individuals planning to become parents be legally required to complete parenting classes? It's a topic that touches upon deeply held values, pitting the desire to ensure the well-being of children against principles of individual liberty and parental autonomy. Joining us to explore this issue are two distinguished guests. Dr. Ben Carter, a child development expert, argues in favor of mandatory classes, and Maria Garcia, a civil liberties advocate and journalist, who argues against such a requirement. We will begin with opening statements from each speaker, followed by a facilitated discussion and rebuttals, and conclude with brief closing remarks. Dr. Carter, would you please begin with your opening statement?
Thank you, Sarah. I believe mandatory parenting classes represent a vital, proactive public health measure designed to significantly improve child welfare across the board. Parenting is arguably one of the most profoundly important and demanding roles any individual can undertake in their lifetime. Yet, paradoxically, it is often approached with surprisingly little formal preparation compared to other significant responsibilities. While instinct and love are crucial components, they are not always sufficient. Effective parenting involves a complex set of skills and knowledge that can, and indeed should, be learned. Well-structured parenting classes can provide essential, evidence-based information covering critical areas. This includes understanding child development milestones, crucial health and safety practices like safe sleep protocols, appropriate nutrition, and recognizing signs of illness. Furthermore, they can introduce positive discipline strategies that foster healthy emotional development, replacing potentially harmful or ineffective methods. Crucially, these courses can also equip parents with tools for managing their own stress and building supportive networks, which directly impacts their capacity to parent effectively. By establishing a baseline of knowledge, we have the potential to substantially reduce instances of unintentional neglect, preventable accidents in the home, and the use of harsh disciplinary practices. This isn't about assigning blame to parents. It's about prevention and providing foundational support before problems arise. Consider the parallels. We require licenses and training for driving a car, and specific certifications for many professions that involve public safety or care. Society routinely sets minimum standards in areas where the well-being of others is significantly impacted. Why should parenting, which shapes the next generation, be exempt? I view this not as a punishment or an intrusion, but as a societal investment in the future health and success of our children. It's also a support mechanism for parents themselves, empowering them with confidence and competence as they embark on this challenging journey. I acknowledge the valid concerns regarding cultural diversity and parenting styles. However, the aim is to establish a universal baseline of essential knowledge concerning child safety and development, principles which are largely cross-cultural. The curriculum can, and should, be designed to be adaptable and sensitive to diverse contexts. The goal is informed parenting, not uniform parenting. Ultimately, the profound potential benefits for children's physical safety, emotional well-being, and long-term development significantly outweigh concerns about minor inconveniences or the perceived infringement on parental autonomy.
Thank you, Dr. Carter. Ms. Garcia, your opening statement, please.
Thank you, Sarah. While I share Dr. Carter's commitment to child well-being, I fundamentally disagree with the proposed solution of mandatory parenting classes. Mandating such classes constitutes a significant and unwarranted overreach by the state into the private sphere of family life. The decision of how to raise one's children is a deeply personal one and is widely considered a fundamental right. Compelling individuals to undergo state-approved training on this matter represents a serious infringement upon individual liberty and parental autonomy. My primary concern lies with the inherent risks of standardization and potential bias. Who gets to decide what constitutes correct parenting? Who designs, approves, and delivers this curriculum? There is a very real danger that such courses could reflect the cultural, class, or ideological biases of those in power, effectively promoting a model of state-approved parenting that marginalizes diverse and equally valid approaches. Then there are the considerable practical challenges. How would such a mandate be enforced effectively and fairly? Who precisely qualifies as a potential parent? At what stage would this requirement kick in? Conception? Before marriage? Before trying to conceive? What are the financial implications? Who bears the cost of developing and delivering these programs on a massive scale? How do we ensure genuine accessibility for everyone, including those in remote rural areas, non-native speakers, individuals with disabilities, or those working multiple jobs? Furthermore, mandatory attendance does not automatically equate to learning, or, more importantly, to positive behavioral change. Forcing unwilling individuals into a classroom may breed resentment rather than receptiveness. It might also create a false sense of competence, ticking a box without genuine understanding or application. We must also acknowledge and respect the vast diversity of effective parenting styles that exist across different cultures, communities, and family structures. A standardized, one-size-fits-all course simply cannot adequately address this rich tapestry of human experience. What works for one family may not work for another. I am also concerned that such a mandate could disproportionately affect marginalized or low-income communities. They might face greater hurdles in accessing classes, or be unfairly targeted for scrutiny, potentially leading to increased stigma or even punitive consequences, rather than support. Instead of compulsion, I believe our resources and efforts would be far better directed towards strengthening voluntary, accessible, and diverse support systems. This includes enhancing community health programs, funding libraries and family resource centers, ensuring affordable, high-quality childcare, and improving access to mental health support for parents under stress. Empowering parents who actively seek help is ultimately more respectful and likely more effective than mandating compliance from everyone.
Thank you both for your clear opening statements. Let's move into our discussion. The core tension seems to be between the state's interest in protecting children and the individual's right to family privacy and autonomy. Dr. Carter, Maria Garcia raised concerns about potential bias and the risk of promoting state-approved parenting. How would you design and implement mandatory courses to ensure they respect diverse cultural values and parenting philosophies, avoiding the pitfalls of social engineering?
That's a crucial point, Sarah. The key is to focus the mandatory curriculum strictly on universally applicable aspects of child health, safety, and fundamental developmental principles. We're talking about things like understanding infant sleep needs to prevent SIDS, basic child nutrition, recognizing developmental red flags, accident prevention in the home, and the detrimental effects of corporal punishment versus positive discipline techniques. These are grounded in scientific evidence and pediatric health guidelines, not specific cultural or philosophical beliefs about, say, co-sleeping preferences or specific educational approaches. To address the diversity concern directly, curriculum development absolutely must involve broad consultation with diverse community representatives, cultural leaders, and parenting experts from various backgrounds. The delivery could also incorporate modules addressing specific cultural contexts, or offer resources that acknowledge different family structures and values, while still covering the non-negotiable core content. It's about providing a foundational safety net of knowledge, not dictating every aspect of family life. The preventative health analogy holds. We mandate vaccinations for public health, not to dictate lifestyles.
Maria, Dr. Carter draws parallels with other safety regulations like food safety standards or child car seat laws, arguing this is simply another measure to protect vulnerable children. Where do you draw the line? If the state can mandate car seats based on safety data, why not mandate basic parenting knowledge if evidence suggests it could prevent harm or neglect?
The line, Sarah, is drawn at the threshold of the family home and the intricate, value-laden decisions involved in raising a child. A car seat is a specific, technical device addressing a clearly defined physical risk with demonstrable effectiveness through passive compliance. Its use doesn't fundamentally shape a child's values or personality. Parenting, however, is infinitely more complex. It involves transmitting values, shaping character, managing emotions, and navigating complex social interactions. Mandating a course on these matters, however well-intentioned or focused on basics, inevitably involves value judgments. Even deciding which positive discipline techniques to teach involves choosing one philosophy over others that some parents might legitimately prefer or find more culturally resonant. Furthermore, the evidence that mandatory, universal classes significantly reduce harm compared to targeted, voluntary interventions for at-risk families is, frankly, not as robust as the evidence for car seats or vaccines. We risk alienating parents and creating a bureaucratic hurdle with questionable large-scale impact, while potentially diverting resources from proven, targeted support programs. It's a slippery slope. Once we accept mandatory training for parenting basics, what's next? Mandatory courses on marital harmony? Financial planning for families? The potential for state intrusion into deeply personal areas is immense.
Let's shift towards the practicalities and alternatives. Maria, you advocate for voluntary support systems. If mandatory classes are rejected, what specific, scalable, and demonstrably effective alternatives would you champion to proactively address the issues Dr. Carter raises? Unpreparedness, potential neglect, or lack of knowledge about safety?
Absolutely. Instead of a top-down mandate, we should invest significantly in a multi-layered system of voluntary supports that meet parents where they are. Firstly, vastly expand funding for evidence-based voluntary home visiting programs, like Nurse-Family Partnership or Parents as Teachers. These programs provide personalized support from trained professionals directly in the home environment, particularly for new or at-risk parents, and have demonstrated positive outcomes for child health and development. Secondly, bolster community-based family resource centers and parent support groups. These offer peer support, drop-in advice, workshops on specific topics, parents' request, and a sense of community, reducing isolation. Thirdly, integrate parenting support and education materials seamlessly into existing touchpoints like prenatal care, pediatric visits, libraries, and community centers, making information readily available without compulsion. Fourth, improve access to affordable, high-quality mental health services specifically for parents dealing with stress, depression, or other challenges that impact parenting. Finally, strengthen the broader social safety net, affordable housing, quality childcare, paid parental leave. Reducing external stressors on families is one of the most effective ways to support positive parenting. These approaches are less intrusive, respect autonomy, can be targeted effectively to those most in need, and build on community strengths rather than imposing a potentially resented mandate.
Dr. Carter, how would you respond to the practical concerns Maria initially raised, the significant costs, the logistical challenges of enforcement and ensuring equitable access across diverse populations? How could a mandatory program be implemented realistically and fairly on such a large scale?
These are valid logistical considerations, but they are not insurmountable obstacles if we recognize the long-term value. Regarding implementation, several models could work, perhaps in combination. Classes could be integrated into existing structures, such as mandatory components of prenatal care offered through hospitals or clinics. This captures a large majority of expectant parents. For accessibility, a blended approach using online modules for foundational knowledge, supplemented by in-person sessions for skill practice and discussion at community centers, libraries, or even workplaces, could cater to different needs and schedules. We would need specific provisions for non-native speakers, including translated materials and courses offered in multiple languages, and accommodations for individuals with disabilities. Enforcement could potentially be linked to processes like birth registration or accessing certain child-related benefits, framed as a supportive prerequisite rather than a punitive measure. The cost is a significant factor, yes, but it must be weighed against the long-term societal costs of not investing in prevention. Consider the expenses related to child protective services, healthcare costs from preventable accidents or neglect-related issues, special education needs, and the juvenile justice system. A well-implemented mandatory program, by reducing these adverse outcomes even moderately, could generate substantial long-term savings for the public purse. Funding could come from public health budgets, potentially supplemented by grants or specific levies, viewed as a crucial investment in human capital. Flexibility in delivery, leveraging technology, and integrating with existing systems are key to making it feasible and fair.
We are nearing the end of our discussion. I'd like to ask each of you for a brief closing statement. Ms. Garcia, please go first.
In summary, while the goal of supporting children is laudable, mandating parenting classes is the wrong approach. It infringes upon fundamental rights, poses immense practical and ethical challenges regarding implementation and bias, and lacks convincing evidence of universal effectiveness compared to targeted, voluntary support. We should trust parents and focus on strengthening the diverse, voluntary community resources that empower families, respect their autonomy, and provide help where it is genuinely sought and needed. Protecting the private sphere of the family from unnecessary government intrusion is paramount for a free society.
Thank you. Dr. Carter, your closing statement?
Mandatory parenting classes are not about state control. They are about ensuring a fundamental baseline of knowledge for the most critical job in society. They represent a proactive, preventative measure to enhance child safety, promote positive development, and equip all parents, regardless of background, with essential skills and information. This is a societal commitment to supporting families and giving every child the best possible start. The focus remains on foundational, evidence-based knowledge, adaptable and respectful of diversity, not on imposing a singular way to parent. Our collective responsibility is to create conditions where children can thrive, and ensuring parents have access to this vital knowledge is a key part of that duty.
Thank you, Dr. Carter and Ms. Garcia, for this insightful and vigorous debate. You've clearly articulated the complex considerations surrounding mandatory parenting classes, highlighting the delicate balance between ensuring child welfare and upholding personal freedoms. Thank you to our audience for joining us. We hope this discussion encourages continued reflection on this important topic.